Okay, is everybody ready? Where's Bob?
Bob's right there.
All right. I will call the special meeting for October 21st, 2014 to order. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? And Norma Blanchard, will you please lead us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Well, welcome. The first item on the agenda for this special meeting is briefing or changes to the CDBG Consolidated Plan process, the city's role in King County Home Consortium, staff presentation by our Community Services Manager, Jeff Watson. Dr. Watson, I presume? I've been waiting all day to say that.
Thank you. If I can get the got to be smarter than the mouse to work it, I guess. There we go. Forgive me. Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. I'm Jeff Watson, Community Services Manager. Community Services staff is here tonight to share with you some changes to the way the Community Development Block Grant Program is to be administered, beginning with the 2015 program year. Oh, goodness. There we go. The changes really revolve around the Consolidated Plan, which is required by HUD regulations for communities that receive formula grants, which include things like CDBG, Home, and the ESG. The Consolidated Plan is a strategic plan for community development funds from HUD. It deals with needs in the community for low and moderate income persons and households, and it covers a 5-year plan period. There are 2 primary areas in the plan: housing as well as non-housing community development that includes things like public facilities, public services, and economic development. The CDBG Consolidated Plan requirements and process have changed. The HUD regulations specify that a consortium must have a single common consolidated plan. Although these regulations were adopted in 1995, the Seattle office of HUD has taken a somewhat laissez-faire approach to those regulations over the last 20 years and has essentially allowed entitlement communities, those that receive funds directly from HUD, to submit their own consolidated plans and operate under those plans rather than with a consortium. The change has come about as a result of the introduction of what is called the Econ Planning Suite. It's an electronic online planning tool that was introduced by HUD in 2012. There's a requirement that all grantees begin using the tool for consolidated planning in 2012. It encourages but does not require grantees with a consolidated plan in place, which includes the City of Federal Way, prior to 2012 to use the tool for annual action plans. It also requires all consortium members to follow the same program year and the same strategic plan or consolidated plan period schedule. How that applies now is a result of the King County Consortia. There are actually 2 consortiums in the consortia: the Urban County, which is the CDBG Consortia, and the Home Consortia. The membership in the Urban County includes non-entitlement communities, those that don't receive funds directly from HUD but get them through King County. The Home Consortium includes both metropolitan cities, which in King County are Federal Way, Auburn, Kent, and Bellevue, as well as the non-entitlement communities. Federal Way's participation in the consortia, we were a member of both prior to 2012 when the city chose to become its own entitlement community, and we left the Urban County at that point in time. We are currently a member of the Home Consortium according to an agreement that runs through 2017. The consolidated plan applies to both consortiums in the consortia. The King County Consolidated Plan, it's currently underway, being prepared by King County for the period 2015 through 2019. The county's using the Econ Planning Suite for the first time, and they notified the entitlement cities in the consortium in early August of this year of the need to participate in the Consolidated Plan, again, reflecting the regulations that were adopted in 1995, but not really enforced by the local HUD office. We did confirm with the HUD staff that same day that, yes, in fact, we do have to participate with King County. Normally, that consolidated plan is due on November 15th, 2014, and I'll speak to that a little bit more in a moment. The Federal Way Consolidated Plan was prepared and adopted for the program years 2012 through 2016. As I said, the plan was prepared prior to the introduction of the Econ Planning Suite. So essentially what the city has done since then we prepared and submitted the consolidated plan as well as the related action plans subsequent to that in the old-fashioned way by submitting a paper document to HUD. The city is in the third year of our 5-year consolidated plan. What are the effects? The city's current consolidated plan will become null and void. King County has primary responsibility for the consolidated plan. However, the entitlement cities participate in that preparation of the consolidated plan using the Econ Planning Suite. With regard to the housing, we all have a consultative role and provide input to the county with regard to housing. The non-housing community development portions of the consolidated plan, each of the cities has the primary responsibility for this area for each of those cities. So within the consolidated plan, for instance, there will be a non-housing community development portion for Auburn, for Federal Way, for Kent, and for Bellevue. The housing, however, will cover the entire county. The City of Federal Way annual action plan will need to be prepared in the Econ Planning Suite and submitted with the new consolidated plan. When a consolidated plan is submitted, a portion of that consolidated plan is the annual action plan for the first year of that strategic 5-year period. Future annual action plans will also be prepared in the Econ Planning Suite. Entitlement cities follow the consortium's strategic plan and program year periods beginning in 2015. Continuing, community service staff is training to use the Econ Planning Suite. It's something that's very new and it's rather complicated. So we're getting up to speed on that. Additional local public participation will be necessary for the city's portion of the consolidated plan as well as the housing portion. We'll need to update the non-housing community development portion of the consolidated plan information that was developed for the city's current consolidated plan. We'll provide input for the housing portion of the county's consolidated plan. That will include reviewing and analyzing King County's proposed housing strategy, comparing it to the city's housing strategy in the city's current consolidated plan and its comprehensive plan. And of course, we'll provide a briefing to council with regard to the housing strategy to ensure that you have an opportunity to have input and comment on that. The county and the entitlement cities are requesting an extension from HUD to the normal submittal date for the consolidated and annual action plan. As I said earlier, the normal date for submittal of the consolidated plan would be November 15th, 2014. But due to the untimely notification to City of Federal Way and the other entitlement cities, it's very clear that the amount of work that needs to be done in order to submit by November 15th could not be done. So we've requested an extension from HUD that actually the request was to the maximum or the very latest date that it could be submitted in 2015, which is actually August 16th. We have no expectation or intention of taking that long, but we felt that it was better to ask for that much time and say delivered about the end of March rather than say, well, we'd like until the beginning of March and have to go back and say, gee, we need another 30 days. So that concludes my presentation, and I will be happy to answer any questions you have.
Councilmember Duclos.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the presentation. When it comes to our housing strategies and we submit them to the county, do they have to take what we say or can they change those?
That's a matter of negotiation, and I posed that question to our HUD rep, and our HUD rep said, well, you will have to negotiate it with the county. She was not able to give me a clear answer with regard to a question of, well, what if we don't like what they want to submit?
That was my next question.
And it's unclear exactly how that will be handled. I think we'll just have to deal with that if it comes up. So.
Councilmember Selsky.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Jeff, thank you for the presentation. And a question about our entitlement. Is there any anticipated change to our entitlement that we've been getting in the past or we anticipate getting in the future?
Not in relation to this subject. It's important to note that the Community Development Block Grant Program has gone up and down on a national basis, especially over the last 20 years. So there's a possibility it could go either way. Fortunately, the City of Federal Way's entitlement grant has gone up a little bit every year, and I would expect that it'll probably go up a little bit come the 2015 program year. After that, it's really hard to say.
Right, but this program will have no impact on that. We won't have to allocate part of our entitlement?
No,
Okay.
the city will continue to receive its grant directly. It will continue to be responsible for administering that grant on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year basis. It's simply the way that we have to go about planning and accounting for what we do in cooperation with King County and the other cities in the county, and we have to do it via this electronic online system now.
So what I hear you saying, we don't really have to change the way we allocate our funding to the different programs
No.
that we've had in the past or
No.
anticipate having?
No.
Okay, and then lastly, this won't affect anything with the Section 108? will
No.
it? Okay, okay. I'm good, thank you.
Councilmember Sefa Dawson.
Just curious, the urban cities that you talked about, Redmond, Des Moines, and I forgot what the other city was?
The non-entitlement communities
Yes,
or the
but they're-
metropolitan cities?
The non-entitlement, but I think that you called them urban?
Yes, there
Can you-
are two consortiums in the consortium. The urban county, or the CDBG consortium, includes the county itself as well as all cities in the county that are not entitlement communities, that don't receive funds directly from HUD and choose to participate. When the county became an entitlement community, there was the opportunity for cities that did not receive funds directly from HUD to either opt into the county's program or to stay independent. What happens if they stay independent is they then can only receive CDBG funds from the state program, and they have to make application, and they're competing statewide for it. If they choose to participate in the consortium with the rest of the county, then they can partake of the county's CDBG funds, and they have to compete only countywide.
Okay, thank you.
Council, any other questions? All right, do we have any other further presentation?
That's it.
All right, Council,
Thank you.
anything else? Thank you, Jeff, for a great presentation, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, council discussions or questions? No questions? Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, now moving on to item 4 of our agenda, the Town Square Park Open House Public Input. I'll ask John Hutton, our Parks Director, to introduce our team from Nakano, who is present. And following this, we're going to have a presentation in the back with some designs and such. John, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Burbidge, members of City Council. I'm honored to be here again tonight to talk to you about Town Square Park. And as promised, we have brought in Nakano and Associates tonight to kick off the master planning process for Town Square Park additions and additional amenities. So it is our goal to have the very best downtown park possible for the city. And we have Nakano here tonight, so I'd like to introduce Ida Otteson, one of the partners at Nakano, to make a presentation to you this evening. And she will go over the plan, some tentative timelines, answer any questions you may have. And as the mayor mentioned, at the end of Ida's presentation and your question and answers, we'll be retiring to the back where they have, we'll be doing out some breakout sessions. So without further ado, Ida Otteson.
Welcome, Ida. As she approaches the podium, I've been thinking about our Town Square Park, and I frequently refer to it as Town Square Park 2.0, or what's going to be 2.5 by the time we get done. So again, I want to go back to the leadership that we saw at the committee. Ida, before you get started, I just want to thank the leadership of the committee, the parks, our chair, Susan Honda, our Councilmember Duclos, and Councilmember Martin Moore, about really kind of moving forward in regard to what our Town Square Park is going to look like, and we've got kind of a revised time frame that I've advised the council, but we can explore that. So Ida, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank
Welcome.
you. First of all, it's nice to see you all again, and I want to say a special thank you to those of you from the community that made it to this meeting. I'm hoping in the upcoming meetings that we'll get a big turnout for these meetings, because really this is all about what you want to see in this park. So starting out with Town Square Park, I wanted to give a brief introduction to our firm, Nakano Associates. We're an urban design and landscape architecture firm in Seattle with 8 employees, and we do the majority of work in the public sector. So we work on parks, plazas, we do a lot of transit-related work, housing, higher education, campus planning, and so forth. And on the picture here you see, on the photos here, you see some of the work that we've done over the last 25 years. We actually celebrate 25 years in business this year. So what I'm going to talk about today is really Town Square Park in this context of the city and what it could mean for the city and downtown. So we're going to start with looking at Federal Way's comprehensive plan and seeing how Town Square Park fits in with that vision of the comprehensive plan. We're going to talk about interim Town Square Park, which really is what's out there today. And we're going to talk a little bit about the survey results, the survey that was released where we got 460 respondents and what that showed us up until this date. We're going to talk about future Town Square Park and what that could be like, and then what the next steps are. And we'll also open up for questions and answer. And then I'm hoping at the end of this that we can just kind of all sit together and just break down into smaller groups and discuss kind of start this visioning process for what Town Square Park should be. So looking at the comprehensive plan, it clearly states that they want to create an identifiable downtown that is just the social and economic focus of the city. And you are all very familiar with this, but I think this is important information for the public, and we'll probably reiterate this, that that's what we're trying to get at. And Town Square Park plays an important role in that transformation. Create an environment that attracts high-quality housing, commercial and office uses, and continue to enforce requirements for quality design in building, streetscape, and site planning. And develop public spaces in the city center, particularly the core area, and enhance the city center with a network of public spaces and parks that are connected to the citywide and regional system of open spaces, parks, and trails. And outdoor spaces should range from a major urban park, that's Town Square Park, which is going to be the focal point of downtown, to the other smaller pocket parks as downtown develops. So to talk about downtown Federal Way, it's really interesting, and I think Federal Way has a really neat history in how it was developed, and I think it's very worth talking about that with Town Square Park sort of being in the context of how the city grew. So this is our site, which I'm going to talk about more later on, and exactly the location of it. But this was the downtown in less than 100 years ago, and it was a mostly forested site. There were logging camps, a few homesteaders, and in 1936, Highway 99 had just been completed. And so you still see that the city was taking off, and it was sort of growing around that highway, and that's also the highway that gave Federal Way its name. I think that's a really interesting fact. And so the city kind of developed as part of that highway construction, and it really developed around the reliance on the automobile, and obviously that's the truth for many American cities, that's what happened. But I think what's interesting is that, you know, compared to maybe other cities where there was the train that came to the city and there was a station or there was a main street, Federal Way actually never really had that. There wasn't never like a city center per se as the city grew. And I think that you can see that in downtown today, that it's still lacking that definition and that feeling, that center of the city. And that's what we want to change, and that is what's going to change. So downtown today, you can see here the park in context of downtown. This site has a lot going for it. It's right next to the transit center that sees, you know, thousands of people every day driving here, walking here. And this is also, you know, most likely the location of the future light rail station. So there is going to be a lot of foot traffic in this area, and there's going to be more and more people moving through this area. And we also have the Performing Arts and Conference Center that's going to be built right north of this site. So, you know, looking at trends today in kind of how cities are developing, how cities are changing, we know that millennials, which is the generations that are under 30, and we know that the baby boomers and seniors, they all want to live in a walkable community, or they want to at least have that as a destination where they can walk around on the weekend and experience that city life. And that's what all the research shows. So you want to really kind of strategically place down Federal Way within that realm, and it's still going to be, you know, downtown Federal Way within that realm. And so there's so many amenities in downtown Federal Way that really that downtown can keep developing around. There's great shopping, there's great eateries, and so providing people with an opportunity to live downtown and being able to walk to these places. And so the next map here is just taken from your comprehensive plan. It shows this future vision on how the downtown is going to change, and how as development happens, there'll be a finer network of streets within the downtown area. And you can see here on this plan that the lines that are dashed could be potential future streets. And where you see the heart, that's where Town Square Park is. So we're trying to create this really signature park space within Federal Way that's going to be able to stand the test of time, be able to see the city change as housing and retail, and you know, this is just going to change. And that's what we have to plan for with Town Square Park. The city is going to kind of take the leap here, but I think it's really the right thing to do in developing this park and making it really a world-class park and a destination, and something that people want to live close to. So, so downtown in the future, we know light rail is coming. The Performing Arts Center is being built. We know that the city is actively working with finding developers and making this a place where people want to live. And with light rail, that's going to happen, for sure. So now we're going to talk about the actual Town Square Park property and the kind of the features of that Town Square Park. So the city acquired the property in 2006, and this was Town Square Park in March of this year. So this site was undeveloped for many years, and we were excited when the city approached us to say, hey, can you make something happen here? We have this piece of property. This is owned by the people. How can we make this a better place? We don't have a lot of money to spend. We have a very short time frame. What can you do? So that was a pretty exciting challenge for us as designers. And so, this is Town Square Park today. It's not everything that it can be. We are very aware of that, and we know that this is really an interim solution, and it's to get people excited about this space and think about what could it be. And so, I just have to go back. I think that the transformation is pretty astounding. In less than a year, this is what it is. And there's going to be some more exciting activities coming up. And so what we want to say is we have to work with Town Square Park as it is right now, and it's going to remain that way for a few more years, maybe just 2, hopefully. But we also have to plan for the future, because the truth is that although it's a great transformation, it does not meet, I think, some of the requirements maybe for a permanent park. And you'll see in the survey results that people notice this too. And I think most of the comments we got have been really positive, and people realize that this is really something is happening in downtown Federal Way. So we want to improve the park as it is, but we also want to plan towards the future and think forward. So, just continuing the good work in the programming with movie nights, the music events, the basketball that's there, but then keep improving this park and keep it lively by using these lighter, quicker, and cheaper methods. And that's sort of something that is being used now, which is really like start with the petunias, start with very simple things, which is what we've already done. But we're going to continue doing that through next year and probably the following year. And that is programming from the side of the city, adding activities that people can do within Town Square Park as it currently is. And then, the farmers market is going to move here in 2015. And there's going to be many, many more events. So now we're going to talk about the survey that was released and what we learned from that survey based on the current Town Square Park. So we got about 460 responses, and the majority of those were older than 30, and 90% of the respondents were older than 30. And if you look at Federal Way demographics in general, about 35% of the population is under 25. So I think those are, there's something here. We need to do some more outreach towards the younger population, and I'm hoping that the community design workshop that we're going to do in November, that there's ways that we can let the public know about that workshop. And I'm just actually showing these bullet points as the questions were answered. So there's no weight necessarily to the order of what these are. There were 70% women of the respondents, 50% of the respondents had children under 18 years, and 40% had visited the park more than once. 90% of those who visited the park drove, and 50% of the respondent had never visited the park, which I also think is a very important thing to keep in mind as you read through these, or as you analyze the results. So some of the existing park features that got the highest rankings was the lawn area, the picnic tables, and the general landscaping that was there. And from the proposed park features, what got the highest ratings was the restrooms, additional shade, and a children's play area. And the additional shade, that makes total sense. With the time that we had available, and we weren't able to provide those sizes of trees, but that's something that is going to be addressed in next year and next summer to make sure that it's a nice place to be. But I think what was really great with this survey was that we got so many comments from people, and so out of these 460 responses, we got 177 people who actually came up with ideas of what they wanted to see, and this is what we want to see more of. But we grouped these suggestions into short-term improvements and long-term improvements. And so for some examples here, and we do have the survey here, I think I would recommend that we make this survey available on the website so people can actually see these results for themselves. But I think these are just some of the ideas that people have that really could be fairly easily implemented over the next year, such as more scheduled community activities, move the farmers market here. That's going to happen starting next year. The mural is also going to be addressed here pretty shortly. We can add some more landscaping in a simple fashion, and so forth. So because of our limited time frame here, what we're going to be doing with this list of comments and suggestions is we're going to kind of distill that with the Parks Department and come up with a list of action items for next year of what we can do. And then here are some long-term suggestions that I think tie in with this vision for Town Square Park, which people were really excited that something is finally happening in downtown Federal Way and in this park. Some of the some quotes that I can say is, make this a rejuvenating place for the mind as well as the body, an oasis in the middle of town, use real artwork specific for this place, and show families a knowledge of their city, and tell them the history of Federal Way. And these are things that I think could really be, they start to show kind of a track towards what Town Square Park could be and what the vision of Town Square Park could be. In terms of features, I think that there were clearly water in the park is a good thing, and then playground, some stage and amphitheater. That were all comments from the public. And so these long-term suggestions lead us to, what is the future of Town Square Park? Well, this is going to be Federal Way's signature park. It's going to be the best you have to put forward. Knowing that, the light rail station is right here, the Performing Arts Center is right here, this is your front door. This is what welcomes people to Federal Way. And, this is just some examples from other parts of the US and the world. But I encourage everyone that's here today to think about a place that you visited, that you really enjoyed being in, an urban park, an urban plaza that you visited, and what was it about that place that you really liked? And kind of think about that for a little bit, because we're going to get back to that towards the end of the presentation. So Town Square Park and the site as it is, or as it was earlier this year, this is it, and it has some really great things going for it in terms of making it an exciting park. It has this beautiful view of Mount Rainier on a clear day in the summer. It has an interesting topography. There's actually almost 30 feet of elevation change from the northwest corner to the southeast corner. So you have this really, really cool change in topography that you can play with within the park. You have the transit center, which sees so much traffic, which is right next door. The light rail and how that plays in with this park is something we're going to have to take into consideration and study further. But we know that that's going to draw a lot of people to this area. And we also have the future Performing Arts Center just located just to the north of the site. So I'm going to go, let's see here. So we'll get back to that a little bit later. But there is, as you saw in that previous slide, there is a lot of development potential around Town Square Park. And also the fact that, part of the town square, or part of this parcel, I should say, might very well be developed. So this is a very conceptual plan of what could happen and how we can move forward with the park while keeping options for development open. So this is something we worked out with an architect who does a lot of developments, and realizing what is the best portion of the site to develop, and then how does Town Square Park fit in within that parcel. So this is an option for what could happen, that basically the north and the west side of this parcel gets developed, and this kind of southeast corner of the park becomes the park. And that's something that we're going to basically keep exploring as we move forward with this master planning. So this is really the kickoff for this master planning process. And the reason why this is so important is that it provides us as the designers, and it provides the community an opportunity to think about this park in the context of downtown and what the needs are of the community and the long range planning. And also providing the community with a really transparent process for how this park gets developed, and also give them opportunity to provide input, really leads to a stronger support and engagement from the public in this park. And also providing this long-range vision for what this park will be. And this outlines what that process is, and we are at the very beginning of this process. And everyone that's here, I really urge you to tell your family and friends about that this is happening, and invite them to the next meeting that's going to happen. So right now we're really kind of learning about the city. We've putting Town Square Park in the context of the future, and we're starting to develop these goals and the vision for what this park should be. I want to reiterate that really the community's input in this process is invaluable. That's how we feel like we create successful spaces, because we don't have the answers. The community does. And you know what's unique to Federal Way and how we make this a place that's very distinctly Federal Way, because we know we can learn from other places around the world about what makes a great place, but we want to make that uniquely Federal Way. And looking at what makes a great place, there's many factors that come together, and some of that is just going to happen over time. But there needs to be great uses and programming. We need to know that the clientele or the people that visit the park comes from all of the populations. Right now, there's a term called 880 cities, which means that a great place really invites anyone from the age of 8 to the age of 80 to come and visit that place. And I think that's as a beacon to kind of thrive or strive for that is something that I think is very important. And then this access and linkages, which is where the light rail comes in, where the Performing Arts and Conference Center comes in, and where the commons and the shopping that goes around here, all that kind of plays into how the Town Square Park will function. And then comfort and image, like this needs to be a place where people feel invited, it feels safe, it's attractive, it's a really nice place that people can seek out and spend time in. So I want to put Town Square Park into the context of the Performing Arts and Conference Center. So this is just north of the site, and Town Square Park will be really what people look at from the Performing Arts Center site. There is about a 20 to 30 foot grade difference. So when you're up at the Performing Arts Center, you will see Mount Rainier, you will see Town Square Park, you will see all of downtown Federal Way, which will be really nice. And this is some views of that. And so these are some early renderings of a Town Square Park. So the name implies a town square, but it's also a park. And where you make that transition from the more urban square to the more green lush park, that's something that we'll be exploring with the community in the next community workshop on November 22nd. We really hope that there'll be a good turnout, because that will really guide us as we move forward with the concepts for the park. That's where the community's input is just going to be really crucial. And with that, I'd like to open it up for questions and answers.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over here to Councilmember Honda here for just a moment, but just a quick question. So the process as you and I have discussed is sometime, mid-spring or maybe even late spring, April, May, we're going to finish this public process, and we're going to be able to tee up with the council some options.
Yes, exactly. So this community design workshop will really be about programming for the park and what the amenities should be in the park, and that will be on November 22nd. And based on that meeting, we then will move forward with creating 3 concepts for the park with cost estimates, and those will be presented probably early February, and then they will be presented to the public. The public will have an opportunity to provide input on the 3 concepts, and based on the input we receive at that meeting and from City Council, we can move forward with a final concept and have a master plan for Town Square Park in place by late spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then once that, let's assume that we go through that process and we select one of, or a combination thereof, one of the designs. How long would it take? You had mentioned actually that it would take perhaps till the next year to construct it?
Absolutely. I mean, so I think that's why it's so important that we put this into perspective of what the future of downtown is going to be, because this is going to be a really nice park when it's constructed. So a typical construction of a park that we know, it's probably 6 months to a year. Okay. And then you have the process of actually getting conceptual design to construction documents, which is probably at least 6 months. So I think it's reasonable to expect that Town Square Park in its current state will remain that way at least through next summer and the following summer, and then maybe groundbreaking is in 2016 or 2017. That's something we have to look at more in detail. And it really depends on also what the funding for this park is and so forth. And that's something we will explore further.
Well, we should be able to do, and if we do, I think that's what kind of caught me. If we do
Yeah.
6 months, if we do 6 months of, once we get that approval and we go
Yeah.
through that, I'm not sure why we couldn't do this in 16, why we couldn't, I'm not sure what,
Yeah, maybe that sounds good to me. Let's do it in 2016.
okay. Well, I think that's the goal. Councilmember Honda?
I was just thinking the timeline was moving too slow for him. Thank you for the presentation. I have some questions. This is really an exciting thing for the citizens here in Federal Way and for the council, but I do want to talk about a couple things. One is you mentioned light rail several times. We don't know for sure that light rail is coming.
We know for sure it's coming. It's just a matter of time.
Well, we could debate that, but I won't. But we don't know where the alignment would be. And if it's from Highway 99 and it comes into the transit center, how would that affect the park?
That's a good question.
Will that be, we won't know the alignment for till 2015 or so.
Right, and actually, there's not going to be a vote on Sound Transit coming down to this area till 2016.
Right.
And then, actually, the build-out all the way to 240th doesn't actually even occur until 2023, 9 years from now. So
It may or may not, but if it comes off of 99, it could impact the park, depending on where it would come.
Absolutely, we're very well aware of that.
Okay.
And so that is something where if we go back to, we can go back to this slide, why not? It's the challenge in moving forward with this now, and we do need to move forward with it now, is that the edges of this park could be impacted by light rail. The development that could happen on site, that is something that we're going to take into consideration when we propose this park. The question is, do you want to wait with doing anything until the light rail comes, whenever that comes, or do you want to just do this now? And I think you probably...
We just need to be aware of.
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, and obviously that's in line with, speaking of alignment, is, this council, and I think that we've been talking about an I-5 alignment, but you never know what Sound Transit could push on us. But I think actually if build-out is 2023 at 240th, 9 years from now, build-out all the way to 320th would probably be another 6-7 years. So we're probably talking 2030 by the time it comes down to Federal Way. But anyway, go ahead.
The other thing I wanted to ask, and when we build a new building here in Federal Way or a park, we have 2% of the funding needs to go to public art. And I want to make sure that still extends to the parks, to building a new park, and how we would work that in, what kind of public art we might want. So I'd like to start thinking about that. And also having play equipment that is accessible for all children. I was very excited I guess it was in August when I was in Virginia, and I saw some play structures that you could push wheelchairs up on. I mean, it was just exciting to see that exists and that we could do something like that. And also, I'm so excited, I'm using that word quite a bit tonight, but that we're including the public in this. I've pushed and pushed for that, and that's very important to me because this is the public's park. It isn't just our park. And I wish we had more public here, but I know we will as this goes forward. So thank you very much.
Well, and thank you, Councilmember Honda, or Chairman Honda, because we were talking about that issue. And, Ida and I were actually talking about this quite a bit, about making sure, and, she's a passionate advocate for inclusion of the public, as you could tell from this. So, and I like the idea. We should maybe even think about, I like Town Square Park, but People's Park has a kind of a ring to it, too. So, Councilmember Duclos and then Councilmember Selsky.
I just wanted to make a couple of comments. Thank you very much. I'm very, very excited about this. We've been talking about this for many years. Unfortunately, we had a recession in between, which kind of stopped the development of anything, any place. But this really, really is exciting. I think a couple of comments I would want to make. I wouldn't wait for Sound Transit to figure out what their alignment is. This is Federal Way. We need to figure out what Federal Way wants to do and do what we want to do, and then let them fit in with us. This is exciting. It's been a long time coming, and I can't wait for it to start and to be finished. So I'm like the mayor. We're both kind of, okay, we've decided now, let's move forward and let's get it done.
Very good.
And I think if we put out a notice to the public in the papers and maybe something in a newsletter and on our website, we'll have people here.
Yeah, we do a good job of getting the word out from movies,
Yeah.
so we should be getting a good.
Yeah, and then we can,
and our-
we'll have them coming here and looking at different displays and making comments and things like
Yeah,
that. so.
and the next meeting is at the community center, so I think if we start advertising at the community center now, there is so much traffic through there, lots of
Yep.
all ages. I think that'll be a great place for the next workshop.
Well, John is our advertising guru. Every special project, we've got a big Veterans Day thing going, so he's kind of our go-to guy for getting the word out. So,
Great.
all right, Councilmember Selsky.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Farrell, and thanks for the presentation. I'm really happy we enlisted your service and the services of your company to come and help us figure this out, because this is going to be a landmark piece of property in our city going forward, as we all know. I know there are a lot of demands on features in the park, and especially if there's some development, it's going to make it even tougher. But there's a group that really wants representation in this, and I'll, again, throw my support behind it. And, of course, it's for a veterans memorial or a veterans monument. And I've been approached by many veterans, by service groups, you name it, and just wanting something. There's been a group of us studying this for a couple of years now, and we've looked all throughout the city for different pieces of property to put this on. Some of it provided by the school district, but the school district just can't turn loose of properties for this use. And so once we started discussing about a town square park, it became a natural, I guess, magnet for something like a Veterans Memorial. And I'll leave it at that. I know we have a lot of discussion coming forth about features of it, but I can tell you there's going to be a groundswell of support for something having to do with veterans at the town square park.
Thank you for that input, and I'd like just to add that I think Town Square Park would be an appropriate place for it.
Thank you.
And I've heard it from a lot of folks as well. Deputy Mayor Burbidge, Councilmember Moore, and then Councilmember Maloney.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. This is fascinating to anticipate and to know that we'll be having the opportunity for more community discussion and sharing of ideas. I look forward to that. I'm wondering if this presentation could be featured on our television station,
It will be.
perhaps. Good.
It's being recorded. I'm
And
sorry to
good.
interrupt. It's being recorded right now, and it will be replayed on Channel 21.
Good. And also maybe a mention on our Facebook page, the city's
Okay.
Facebook page.
Yep.
I think that kind of thing can generate a lot of familiarity. One of the things that I mentioned at our council retreat earlier this year was the possibility of an ice rink and ice skating area, and either with real ice or with artificial ice, because I've heard of the artificial ice being used also. And I would like to encourage keeping that in mind as one possibility for the winter use. I don't know what the cost would be, but I'd be interested in
I think
more information.
The more of these suggestions that we can gather before the community meeting on the 22nd, we will have all those options on the table, and it'll be an opportunity for the community to also weigh in on what they want to see. But I think these are great suggestions, and I think what's exciting is you look at great examples of parks and plazas around the country, and it's really like this. It's really a multi-use of a place. So, what is the water? Obviously, the water feature in the summer, and then an ice rink in the winter, and the Veterans Memorial is just a really nice place to be. A Veterans Memorial doesn't have to be a memorial per se. It can be a nice place where you can sit down and think about everything that's happened, or where you can remember those. So I'm just trying to reiterate that I think that all of these things could be incorporated into the park, and it's really a matter of budget and maintenance and so forth. But that's what this process will really allow us and the community to do, is explore these options and the cost that comes along with them, and you know, what makes the most sense. So
Right. Thank you.
yeah.
And so, Ida, is there, you know, an appreciation for, you know, while we're building and planning a space for private investment in that northwest corner, if you will, that, you know, that square part, the northwest corner, and sort of moving over to the northeast corner, that in the interim, prior to that going, that could be used as green space, and, you know, prior to that development coming in?
Exactly. So the idea on this very conceptual stage is that, you know, anything that we want to keep as a permanent amenity in Town Square Park, where we're really putting, you know, investing in nice features of this park, all that will happen in this area.
Right.
And then, like the mayor, what you said, in this area, we'll have more of a transition space.
Right.
That might mean that before development happens, that could be a location for surface parking, so that this really nice park becomes, it still has nice parking amenities. As the site develops, that parking is probably going to go underground. Maybe it makes better use of the transit center parking on the weekends for an event. People can use the parking there. That's all things we need to take into consideration.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait, and, you know, maybe a consideration in the interim use is we still have that grass in the northwest corner.
Yeah.
So maybe the parking goes to the northeast corner, or right where you have the clicker right there.
Yeah.
On an interim basis.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Councilmember Moore. And then Councilmember Maloney and Councilmember Sepidowson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll certainly keep my comments short, because I think I'll certainly be echoing the words of my colleagues. But just to echo what Councilmember Selsky had mentioned about the Veterans Memorial, I support that idea. I think it's really important, especially looking at the long-term plan of that whole area, which, as I understand, is going to be Veterans Way. And so looking at all that and putting all that together, I think only, in my mind, makes a lot of sense, and it becomes that much more important to keep everything unified. And I also do like the idea of the ice rink, only because, you know, it's not just about keeping the park going during spring or summertime, but let's keep it going, and let's continue to build some synergy around it during the wintertime as well, seeing how the Christmas tree or the holiday tree may be there. And of course, thanks to Councilmember Honda for, again, reiterating the importance of building features there for disabilities. For people with disabilities, it's really important to me. And it's important that all of our parks have that, including Town Square Park. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Maloney.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. At the risk of being redundant, I too would like to see some sort of veteran memorial there. And I wonder if we actually do end up with a water feature, which, by the way, might be redundant in and of itself, because we'll have one possibly right up above at the PAC site. So, I mean, it's okay to have two, but I'm just saying if we only want one, we might want to pick which site we're going to have it at. But I wonder if it's possible to combine creatively the water feature with the Veterans Memorial. That might be an interesting play.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's a thought, and it might actually save us some money too if we can do 2 in 1. Thank you.
Before I call it, thank you. On that thought, you know, what I've always envisioned for the water feature at the park was a splash park for kids, which I think will result in our park being mobbed on hot days. I mean, it would be a real draw, not just for the city, but even, you know, the surrounding communities. So that's something that, you know, I'd like to.
Yeah, there's no spray parks currently within the city.
I think that's the kind of thing on a hot day that, you know, so that kind of splash park kind of idea. Councilmember Sepidowson.
Thank you. In reading the comments during the survey, one of the things that comes very strongly is about wasting money. And so if there's either frequently asked questions or if there's a way to address that just to make the public feel a little comfortable about what's going on, I think that would be great. But also one of the suggestions I read was regarding the strip there across there, where maybe there's a way to connect that to the comments and move those shopping into the Commons Mall. And so, and I don't know how feasible that is, but I think that's a great idea also, just to give it more visibility. And so that's my comment regarding what was out there in the comments from the public.
Yeah, I think a lot of these comments really need further follow-up. There were some really good ideas in there that we want to include as we move forward with the planning for Town Square Park. Absolutely. And there were really some very visionary comments in there, which was exciting.
I counted about, out of the 177 comments, I counted about 6 concerns about money and about concerns about money. And I think all of us here want to be frugal with our tax dollars and make sure that we're not wasting that money. But that's good to know. This is being televised, so I want to make sure that people see that. Councilmember Selsky?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Farrow. One more comment following up on Councilmember Maloney with regard to the water features. We could potentially integrate the water feature from the PAC down here with this in the park. I mean, I think we're creative enough to do that, and it kind of reminds me, doing something like that reminds me of what the school district has done with the new maintenance facility. They have water coming off the maintenance facility from the roofs and the landscape and going into a central, I guess, a little stream or something that goes through the entire property. So, I mean, I don't see why we couldn't do something like that and then also integrate it into the Veterans Memorial. Great idea. So I think we could do something like that.
Yeah, just to follow up, I completely agree with you, and that's something that the mayor and I have kind of discussed is could we connect something, from up above to down below, but that might entail you working with our architects or something from the PAC just to make sure it's solid, but
I'd like to
I would
answer that
support
real-
something.
If I may,
Okay,
before you
Councilmember
do that
Duclos.
though, because I just want to let people know that this discussion took place before the recession occurred.
Right.
And all along, we talked about having a water feature that would run down the length of it, and whether it was a brook or a waterfall or different combinations leading to a kind of a splash park. So I just wanted to let people know that this is an idea that's been brewing.
I actually remember that, and
Yeah.
because it's the head of the Hylobos,
Yeah.
is that correct?
Right.
And
Exactly.
then it could just kind of support that
Yeah.
commitment of our city to the Hylobos.
Very good. All right, anybody else? Going once? Ida, thank you very much. Great presentation. For those watching here or on our TV audience, it's November 22nd from 9 a.m. to noon. Is that right, at the community center?
Yes,
9 a.m. to noon. Do you remember what day of the week?
it's a Saturday.
Saturday,
Yeah.
9:30 a.m. to noon.
Yes, and actually, because we do have a little bit more time, I
Yeah.
do want to invite those who are here today and who are interested in the park to take part in this little visioning exercise that we're going to do. And as I mentioned before, or asked you to do, is think about an urban park or plaza that you visited that you really liked. And think about what was it in that place what was it that made that a good place? And imagine that place being in Federal Way. So it's sort of a postcard from the future, Town Square Park 10 years from now. So for those of you who want to be part of that little exercise, we can all meet at the back of the room here, and we'll break into little groups. So I invite the City Council, everyone that's here to come and take part of that.
Great. Thank you, Ida.
Thank you.
I appreciate your presentation. Absolutely. Great job, Council, with your participation and great questions. Before I adjourn this special meeting, I'd like to remind everybody we have an Arts Alive reception being held in the Hylobos room. Everyone is welcome. And at this stage, we'll just go into brief recess so you can look at the charrettes and enjoy the reception for the Arts Alive. Thank you.